Alright, QM5094 Edition A. QM5094 Subcourse Edition A. Direct Tank Vehicles, the Army Institute Professional Development Army Correspondence Course Program. Lesson 1, Inspection, Patrolling, Marking Vehicles, Equipment, Supervising Operation, Filter Separators. Lesson 2, Lesson 3, Direct Use of Pumps. Lesson 4, Supervising, Patrolling Vehicle Operations. Lesson 5, Direct Unit Maintenance within the Army Maintenance Management System. TAMS on assigned equipment and direct refuel on the movement of operations. Directly assemble operations, preventive maintenance, check services, disassembly of the HMETT, direct loading and unloading waterborne barges and tanks, and Episode 9, direct rail car operations. And we'll start out with Lesson 1, Inspection of the Petroleum Fuel Markings and Equipment. Critical Task 101 519 3313. Introduction. As a petroleum supervisor, you must be able to ensure the vehicle's equipment are properly marked for both safety and reasons to prevent commingling of the products. Part A, Inspection of the petroleum markings. Tanker vehicles include the M49A2C, M131, A5C, the M967, the M969, the M970, and the M978. The driver's side of the tanker is on the roadside. The passenger side of the tanker is curbside. Vehicles used for the bulk transportation of gasoline, fuel, oil, other fuel flammable liquids may be marked on both sides on the rear of the body with the word flammable in 6-inch block letters. Direct below with the space permits of the same line with the words no smoking within 50 feet of the 3-inch block letters, numerals. One on each vehicle which are under the tactical conditions marking will the lustreless white number 37875 vehicles are used on public highways. Condos where the military commercial design must comply with the Title 49 CFR Section 177-82-3 when required. The above markings in the red lettering, the white background, allowing 1-inch margin of all the lettering around the lettering with gloss red number 11105 or 11136. The background will be gloss white number 17875. On the vehicle's customary use on public highways, markings may be permanently installed by painting of the adhesive back details. Vehicles infrequently used on the public highways and camouflage vehicles will be marked by use of the removable reversible signs, which are securely fastened, while in use individual vehicles must comply within the above requirements. The type of products that service fuel and oil dispensing vehicles, equipment used for the servicing aircraft being marked with the grade of the fuel oil on each of the side of the tank. Marking must be lustrous white number 37875. The following size is semi-trailer 6 inches high, trucks 4 inches high, and 2-wheel trailers 3 inches high. Tanker vehicles colors: yellow, warning color, red, fire protection materials, equipment, and black and white identification, gray and black when using camouflage. U.S. Army registration numbers colored black and white. Placement inside and back. And the size 2 inches on side and 3 inches on the back. According to the AR 750-58, there are no further requirements to mark the vehicle's equipment with identification legend U.S. Army with the vehicle's equipment are camouflaged both by the U.S. Army, and the registration number will be removed with the vehicle equipment exterior. This shows the M131A5C tanker vehicle. Note the dimensions shown in there are in inches. Shows the different flammable sides of the sides and labeling. Tank capacity, tire pressure, hearing and protection, diesel, fuel only, lift and emergency valve. All sizes are the same, 1 inch, all colors the same, black, gray, and white. The emergency valve size is 1 inch and red in color. The bulk system, the piping system, or any of its piping, they're used for the convey of liquid petroleum products, including heating the fuel, hydrocarbon, missile fuels. These may be classified with the tank of the tanker truck, loading, unloading connections, storage tank valves, pump manifold valves, cross-country pipelines. There are points on the tie with the pump stations, oil tankers, connections, manifolds, other similar dispensing outlets. Some storage systems include all exposed fixed storage tanks except for the aircraft and ships. Bulk petroleum products, hydrocarbon, missile fuels are classified by the groups missing assigned with a yellow band or a group of yellow bands to each of the 8 groups. There are similar products with distinctive, conspicuous manner as a visual aid. As shipment of the written identification of the groups, the number of the bands are aviation gasoline, 1 narrow band, automotive gasoline, 2 narrow bands, jet fuel, 3 narrow bands, distillates, 4 narrow bands, heavy fuel, 5 narrow bands, lubrication oil sign, Refer to Field Manual 1067-1, Concepts of Equipment, Petroleum Operations, Thermal Stability, Jet Fuels, Wideband, Narrowband, Wide. Missile fuels, one wide, one narrow band, tightly. Title should be identified with the content of the complete nomenclature, type of the grade of the product, and the military symbol if established. A NATO symbol and number that indicates if the product is interchangeable as intended with the particular product one, and more NATO participation nations. System handling products where the NATO symbol has been established are located within our subject of the surface, ground, sea, and air equipment of the NATO countries and will, in addition to the NATO symbol, include the appropriate U.S. military symbol and should protect and become an office of specification in any respect. In any case, any excess of the NATO allowable deterioration limits before the use of a line color contrasting the NATO symbol background color will drawn diagonally across because beyond the rectangle enclosing the NATO symbol. This thickness of the line should be such that it's clearly visible and the NATO symbol is then considered concealed or cancelled, and the product may, if the considered emergency and substituted to the original product, will be used under the technical advice. The line or system will be properly remarked with the deteriorated product is replaced. NATO symbols are the line system will be properly remarked where the deteriorated product is replaced. NATO symbols are combat MOGAS F49, JP F40, JP5 F44, kerosene F58, diesel fuel F54, and JP8 F34. Yellow is assigned with a primary warning for all the flammable materials, according with the provision of the Basic Code, Military Standard 101, black and white use of the main marked titles across the yellow bands, marking which includes the titles and bands and arrows will be applied with the painting and stenciling if desired, means the details, elastrometric film, the relatively sheeting marking shall be applied all receiving concessions at all dispensing units at all the tank fill and discharge lines at locations where the line connections are made with the manifold at any other location necessary to assure the ready identification of the product system. On 5-gallon cans, use the 3 1/4-inch letters on stencil in the front of each with the nomenclature NATO code number, the fill date. On the 55-gallon drums, use the lettering at least 3 1/4-inch on the tall stencil at the top of each drum with the nomenclature NATO code number, the weight and the volume of the contents, the filling date, and on the 500-gallon collapsible drums. Stencil both ends of each with the drum with the nomenclature, weight, and the volume of the contents with the NATO code number of the product and the drum, and stencil both ends of each of the drum with the fill date with using the drum temporary for the storage fuels. Stencil both ends of the drum with the word flammable. Titles will be applied with such a manner that a clearly visible operating position of black background will have a minimum border of 3/4 of an inch wider than the lettered area. For the piping smaller than 3 inches of the diameter, metal flags and single signs securely fastened to the pipe may be used within the appropriate titles and the product of the group of the bands lettered thereon. The multi-product lines or flags identifying the products currently in transit may be used in lieu as is a supplement with the yellow band nomenclature. An arrow painted yellow will be made. It may be used to indicate the direction of flow of the product in the line. It will appear that the adjacent title of the band insists where the piping system of the tankage is buried and inaccessible. Only the valve and wheel gauging hatch are used. The middle flag of the brass disc will be used in aid of identifying the product with the facility. The flag must be permanently fixed to the pipeline tank or in concrete adjacents thereto. The brass identification disc will be placed on the top of the valve gauging hatch or in concrete pits with similar to conditions where spacers will not permit the banding and stenciling of the pipe. The vertical band will be painted with a wall adjacent to the pipe. The title of the product will be stenciled horizontally white across the bands, where the pit and cover the installed markings may be applied to the top of the covered camouflage system. The product title, grade, and NATO symbol stencil with the same location name, non-camouflage system using gray and white, gray and black, whichever to show up the best in the round against the background color. Yellow bands and markings will be used to track the camouflage will not be used. Introduction. Pumping out units of the filter separation are widely used, but the theater of the pumping units serve as the primary means for the receipt, storage, issue of petroleum fuels during bulk retail Class 3 operations. Filter separations provide effective means for the ensuring the fuel with the free of the contamination as an NCO. Therefore, several assignments that require knowledge and to maintain the equipment. Alright, Part A. Use the filter separators. Filter separators figure 2.1 and 2.2. Remove the solid contaminants trained with the water with the liquid fuel filter separator arranged inside of the 15-gallon pump to 600 gallon per minute pump capacity. Organization maintenance personnel are responsible with the help of the equipment, the operator, the replacement filter elements of all filter separators. They use the standard interchangeable elements, but the candidates are simply to replace the elements of filter separator. They may be used for ground products such as automotive gasoline and diesel fuel, and proposed by the user vehicles. They must be used in aligning pumping full directly aircraft of the vehicle's real fuel aircraft. In addition, with all fuel loaded into the aircraft, refueling vehicles should be filtered again before the pumped aircraft. The standard filter element inside with the canister is perforated tube surrounding with a fiberglass filtering material, which is returned into wrap into several layers in a different material. With the fiberglass material, filter solid particles with the fuel, with the cotton knit with the fiberglass screen, with the combined fine particles of the water in the fuel to form water droplets will settle because of the heavier fuel than expected service life of the standard filter elements is 24 months. The canister and cylinder are approximately 5 inches in diameter, 23 inches long, and it consists of the outer and inner tube. The inner tube is made with the perforated metal and metal screens. The outer tube is made with the perforated metal line with a Teflon coated screen. The raw fuel enters the center tube of the filter element through the fitting of the bottom of the canister. Solid contaminants are removed. The fuel flows outward for the perforated center tube through the fiberglass filtering material. As fuel passes through the outer layers and elements, the fine particles of the water and fuel all coincide with the droplets of fuel containing the coalesced water with the gas through the inner tube of the canister. The space between the inner and outer tubes, Teflon coated screen of the outer tube through the water drops. They fall to the bottom of the chamber. The filter separator. Only clean fuel passes through the outer canister of the filter separator tank. The tank vehicles such as the M131 AF5C tank semi-trailer filter separated with the work in 3 stages. The first stage is the 15 filter elements that would be removed solid contamination. The second stage is the 5 canister that separate the water from the fuel and let the water drain into the sump. The third stage is a 15 go or no go fuse that shut off the flow of the fuel if the other 2 stages allow water and contaminated exceed with a safe level. The M49 AC filter separators have 3 filter elements, 3 separator canisters, 3 go or no go fuses. The go or no go fuses approximately shut down the flow of the fuel in the water and or contaminants reaching a high level. Performing before operational maintenance. Make the visual check of the leaks and loose for the missing parts and covered and assembly other connections. Ensure that all the valves operate freely and do not leak. Ensure the drains or valves are closed position. Ensure the ground wire is connected properly and not broken. Ensure the gasket are in place and not leaking. Ensure that the fire extinguisher is easily accessible in the working order. Proper performing during operational maintenance. Check the pressure gauge for reading and to ensure that the pressure reading is below the red band on the gauge. If it is in the yellow band, change the elements after the operation. If in the red, stop the operation. Check the water level side gauge to drain the water if necessary. Check the filter separator for leaks. Typical flow filter separator fuel within the large black arrow, fuel within the solid contamination with the intra-train with the water. Dotted arrow is the fuel water entrained with the water. Water and clean fuel clear, and all the air eliminator sight gauge shown on the true position, and the water drain shut out true position, inlet and drain. Performing after an operational maintenance, clean and store the equipment. Ensure all the dust caps and plugs are installed after the operation. Different sizes and filters separated to 15 gallon per minute with liquid with the fuel filter separated vertical with the portable unit closing, consisting of an aluminum tank mounted with an aluminum skid. The tank has the fuel inlet and outlet valve with the water drain valve and the water level sight gauge. The pressure of the vent valve with working with the pressure of 25 psi. The 15 gallon per minute filter separator is used with a 15 gallon per minute hand operated dispensing pump. The 50 gallon pump with the filter separator consists of aluminum tank with the movable cover inlet pipe at the dust cap pump plug outlet pipe at the dust cap water drain valve of the air vent valve. The pressure differential indicated 8 glass fuel 4 elements canisters are reading with grade 0 to 20 psi means of the elements of the clean reading in the yellow is 25 to 35 psi means elements must be changed at the end of the day's operation, and a marking of the reading of the 35 psi and up means the elements must be changed at 1 to the maximum with the working pressure of 75 psi is or used in the refueling system surface the ground vehicles 100 gallon pump per minute with a filter separator aluminum pressure tank with a removable head. The tank is welded with a tubular aluminum frame. The maximum working pressure is 75 psi. The 350 gallon per minute with the filter separator is used with 155 psi airfield refueling system, monitoring the fuel servicing equipment, military hose line, and the equipment of the fuel system supply point. Your M96N and M970 tank truck filter separator, from the relief valve to the filter separator elements, the go no go fuses, filter coalescer elements, the bleed off line, the inlet, the outlet, and the automatic drain valve in the filter sup and the valve. Your 50-gallon pumping assembly has a drum suction stub, suction discharge hose, nozzle, ground rod, carrying case, discharge port, fuel tank, suction port, engine pump, toolbox, and carrying handle. Part B, different types of pumps and their characteristics. The 50-gallon pump minute per minute pumping assembly figure 2-3 consists of the pump assembly, engine assembly mounted with the oval aluminum base, one cylinder with the four-cylinder area with the cooled gasoline is used to pour the pump. At the pump itself, priming central figure of the pump. The pump suction discharge port have 1.5-inch cam locking coupler and adapters with dust caps. Figure 2.4 shows a 100-gallon per minute pumping assembly. Figure 2.5 shows the 350-gallon pumping assembly. 100-gallon per minute pumping assembly. Figure 2.4 is used for the component with the fair system, the fuel and a cool one-cylinder gasoline-driven four-cycle is used to pump the power to the pump. It develops 2.5 horsepower for the 350 arm. 3,500 RPM, the 100-gallon per minute with the pumping assembly is used to transfer the fuel from the storage tank, the tank, the car, or the tank vehicles to small capacity containers. 350-gallon pump of the pumping assembly in figure 258 is used mainly with the fuel system supply point towing speeds of the hard surface of 20 miles per hour, the gravel road 20 miles over the road, rough cross country 8 miles an hour. The gasoline models the 350-gallon per minute Barnes model idle speeds of 700 to 800 RPM with the normal operation speed of 3,200 to 360 RPMs. The Gorman model of the idle speed of 1,000 RPMs with the nominal operation speed of 220 to 235 to 2,350. Diesel model of the 350-gallon per minute, but the pumping assembly is designed specifically to transfer the gasoline, jet fuels, liquid petroleum fuels, and waters, and consistent with the air cooled with a 3-cylinder diesel engine with a self-priming central figure pump on a 2-wheel frame assembly. Model 1322021070 or 97403. The model is used to transfer the fuel only, does not have the regulator mainly contracted with the recommended warning up and cool down times. The model 97403. The model is used to transfer the fuel only with the regulator provides with the manual automatic modes of operation. 97403. The model is used to transfer the water only and does not have a regulator. Introduction. A petroleum supervisor, you must understand the basic working of the type of the power units used in the petroleum operation. You must also understand the operating characteristics of pumps in order to properly supervise your subordinates. Part A, the type of the power unit, the two types of internal combustion units, reciprocating and turbine. The reciprocating spark ignition engine with the gasoline burning type of the fuel is ignited with the spark plug with a piston at the top of the cylinder. The 3-2 classification and recertification engines, 4-cycle and 2-cycle. The 4-cycle provides more product power, and the 2-cycle engine is much heavier than the engine of the 2-cycle than the 2-cycle. The gasoline engine used military are generally used in small equipment such as the 100-gallon per minute pumps, 4-cycle chainsaws, outer board motors, and 2-cycles. The compression ignition engine functions the same as the spark ignition, except that it does not have the plug. The compression of the source of the ignition for the reason the engine has much heavier construction as the piston moves upward stroke the air. The compressor is heated with approximately 900 to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. At the point of the fuel forced into the chamber, the means of the injector combustion take place. The compression ignition engine will be produced more horsepower because the fuel injection is much more efficient than the space ignition engine. The cost is much more than the gasoline. The engine, therefore, the less maintenance required of the diesel engine are variable suited with the large pump of the stationary application, which lowers the speed of the high horsepower and are required by both because of the diesel engine, the heat compression of the ignition. They need assistance in order to start the cold weather accomplished by the group plugs and the either injection. Turbine engines work on the principle of the heat of the compression. Both do not use to create the hot air of the air compressed by the user compressed for the direct of the combustion chamber with the fuel injected combustion take place. For the basic design, very simple, though less than moving the part. Then reciprocating engine, the following characteristics of the turbine engine: lightweight with the produce the horsepower per size, the required less maintenance, additional cost of very high, the sensitive induster, electric motor the used with the facility because of their lower maintenance operation costs. Electrical motors operate with the magnetic field, but the engineer is applied with the magnetic field established creates a push action, which causes the armature to turn. Part B, the principles of pumps. There are three basic principles of pumps used in the Army: the reciprocating, rotating, and central figure. The reciprocating pump places liquid by reciprocating back and forth in motion, with the most common application piston and plunger moving back and forth in the cylinder. As the piston moves backward, the suction is created with the liquid be drawn within the cylinder. The piston moves forward and the liquid is expelled when only one position is classified as a simplex pump. When two positions are used, it's known as a duplex pump. When the move of the fluid in the both directions because of the air action, they are classified as the displacement pumps. These pumps create special problems. They must be equipped with a surge tank of the pressure relief valve to create a pulsation of the pipeline. They require a high degree of the maintenance over the other types of pumping, packing around, and piston cooling. The unit the pump you will see in the Army is the ROPU. Because of the high pressure required for the pumping of the water through the system, the advantage of the reciprocating pumps are self-priming, high suction pressure, high discharge pressure. Disadvantage of reciprocating pumps are they must have relief set, valve, and surge tank pulsating effect on the pipelines. Rotary pumps are positive displacement pumps, which the mainline pumping action is contained by the rotating gears. The gears rotating with the fluid is trapped between the teeth and are carried out around the discharge outlet. Various type of the rotary pumps, petroleum handling operation, the principal application, low pressure, low capacity operation. The advantage of the rotary pump is the ability to pull fluid into the housing without the aid of the primary tank of the vacuum pump. They also have consistent discharge characteristics. The only petroleum vehicle presently using rotary pump motion is the M49A2C. Central figure pumps employ the central figure force of the principle of the operation. Simple put, with the action of this pump, the improperly rotating with the validated casing of the fluid flow was in the eye of the impeller with the picked up of the veins and discharge with the casing and central figure force because of the simplicity, the low cost ability to operate under the variety of the conditions. Central figure pumps are one of the most popular type of the central pump that are used in the potential rolling pipeline or the TPT. Operations include the 600-gallon per minute hose line pump, which is 6 inches in a single stage with a self-priming pump, the diesel engine driven with a wheel-mounted air-cooled central figure pump, the 1,250-gallon per minute flood transfer pump with the 6-inch single stage mounted diesel engine driven with a self-priming central figure pump, the 800-gallon per minute with the mainline pump and the skid point mounted diesel engine driven with a 3-stage central figure pump. Central figure pump can be classified as described as by the size of suction discharge port, the number of the impeller stages, and whether the self-priming must be force-fed. The 6-inch stage, the self-priming and central figure pump are used to transfer from the storage tanks to the truck loading racks from one tank to the other to 2 feed pumps and stations on the pipeline. 6-inch two stage will use on 6 to 8-inch, 10-inch pipelines as booster pumps may be used in parallel to ocean terminals to offload tankers. The 4-inch and the 4 stages that use the 4 and 6 inches, the inch pipelines and the booster pumps. The 6-inch, 3 inches of diesel engine driven used on the 6, 8 of the 10-inch of the pipelines as booster pumps. The pumps will replace the 4-inch and the 4 stage of the 6-inch and the 2-stage pumps in the Army system. Introduction. The use of tank vehicles in the Army increases because of the need of large volumes of bulk fuel, rapid interpreted distribution requirements of refueling military aircraft and vehicles. Part A, tanker truck. They are utilizing several different tanker vehicles for refueling operation. Below the description of these vehicles they are typically used. The M49 A2C tanker truck. The M49A2C tanker truck is mounted with the modified M45 A2 chassis, 2.5 ton. Truck has multiple fuel engine with a single front of the rear dual tires that is about 23 feet long, 8 feet wide, 7 2 1/3 feet high. The TM 92320 020910 operator's manual for the truck, 2.5 ton with a 6x6 inch gasoline model. With given the details of the truck, the tank body is in stainless steel, 1.5 gallon. The tank shall be divided into two 600-gallon compartments. Each compartment has a manhole covered in one each of the 5-pound carbon dioxide fire. The extinguisher is mounted with the left and right with the vehicle. The rear equipment of the cabinet consists of the manifold, pipe, filter, separator, discharge valve, the controller, meter with the water separated with the chamber gauge with the sticking around assembly pump delivery line valve with the gravity delivery line valve with the filter separator, drain valve with the end pressure gauge, the pressure differential gauge measured the effectiveness of the filter separated with the pressure differential between the inlet and outlet. Pressure is more than 20 psi. Change the filter elements and go no-go. If the pressure differential between the inlet and internal if 15 psi, replace the filter and change elements only. Change only the go no-go fuses when the pressure differential reading is 15 psi between the internal and outlet, and the power taking off the shift lever located in the cab to the left side of the driver's seat. It operates with the pump. The levers, move back forward to engage the pump, and disengage the pump, pull the lever forward for the M49 A2C if using the top and bottom loading, defueling aircraft and pressure discharging. The M131A5C 5,000 gallon semi-trailer. The M131A5C is 5,000 gallon semi-trailer. Figure 4.1, the most commonly used fueling service tank semi-trailer Army. The 5,000 gallon capacity weighs 12 tons. The entire vehicle is about 31 feet to 8 feet wide with 9 feet high. This is with the 5-ton 6x6 tractor trailer with the light vehicle with a fifth wheel. Semi-trailers used to carry the transport of the fuel service the containers and refuel the ground vehicle. The semi-trailer can cross country at reduced payloads of 3,300 gallons in each of the compartment. It can fill it to the empty of 3,000, 10,000, and 50,000 gallon collapsible tanks. The vehicle can transfer the product of the received in the fuel system supply point with a stainless steel tank body divided into two 2,500 gallon compartments and has 2 inches of manhole fill. Cover assembly with a vent valve with the locking device, the discharge valve with the screw assembly with the drain pipe with the fuel marker with the gauge that indicates that when the fuel is in the welded in each manhole. This walkway at the top of the tank of the body with a slip-resistant steel grating ladder near the rear of the vehicle is given with the access manhole covers the 2 compartments connected by the piping. The vehicle's fuel delivery system. There is 1 equipment cabinet and filter separated with the curbside vehicle. The curbside equipment cabinet hose with the an auxiliary engine pump of the battery. There are 3 hose tubes and 1 equipment cabinet with the roadside of the vehicle. The roadside equipment cabinet hose to the meter with a 1.5 inch or 0.55 gallon per minute with a dispensing assembly of 2.5 inch to the 225 gallon per minute dispensing ability. The filter separator pressure gauge, the engine control, liquid and fixed fire extinguisher system, portable fire extinguisher, fuel handling controls. These 4 hoses tubes are sticking. There are 3 doors at the both ends of the hose tube. The auxiliary engine and the pump assembly. We have the 2-cylinder, 4-cylinder air-cooled gasoline engine with a self-priming central vehicle pump with a 24-volt battery with the choke is left on the left side of the engine. The engine controls for the instrument panel located with the roadside. The equipment cabinet, the controls consist of the power panel, starting of the button, ignition switch, and the oil pressure voltage gauge. The pump is connected with the auxiliary engine by bearing the mounted shaft of the firewall separate with the 2 items entering the pumping system. The total capacity of 225 gallons per minute. The filter separated with 3 filtering stages of the first type. Age of 15 elements. Remove the solid contaminants and then coalesce any of the water of the fuel. In the second stage, the 5 canisters and separated with the water and the fuel to let it drain. The filter separated in the sum. Finally, the 15 go and no-go fuses. Safety devices shut off the flow of the fuel of the other 2 stages to allow the water and solid contaminants to exceed the safe level. There are 3 of the 3 fuses. The second stage consistence canisters. Other parts of the filter indicated with the automatic dump of the valve of the main drive and valve of the emergency shutoff control. 3 pressure gauges. Any water collected with the filter separately removed. The automatic dump valve of the valve is operated with a float that rises in water and sinks in fuel. Drain water from the unit. The opening with the main drain valve located within the bottom of the sump to keep the valve open with the longest the running of the valve. The fuel appears within close to the valve while the product is flowing from the separator. Check the pressure differential to 300 gallon per minute with the positive displacement. Meter is located on the right side of the roadside equipment. The meter counter registers 9,999 gallons on the knob. The one side of the meter is used to reset the counter with the knob clockwise until the counter is back to 0. The meter is also totalizer with keep the record of all the issues. There are 3 dispensing assemblies on the M131A5C tank semi-trailer. One of the assembly is made up of 3 15-foot sections or 3-inch suction hoses. The sections are used to store stored in tubes located at the roadside of the vehicle. The other 2 assemblies are hosed for the roadside equipment of the cabinet. The one over the left side of the cabinet is 0 to 55 gallon per minute with a dispensing ability. It has a 50-foot section of 1.5 inch discharge hose and reel, 1.5 inch hose nozzle, a bonding clip, and a plug. The assembly over the right side of the cabinet of 225 gallon per minute with a dispensing assembly. It has a 50-foot section, 2.5 inch hose discharge with the hose reel, the 2.5 inch nozzle with a bonding clip and the plug, and the 2.5 inch nozzle comes with the 2 nozzle spouts. The standing of a 14-inch spout with the most fuel operating normally with the attached to the nozzle. The 24-inch spout is used only for the defueling operation stored with the left side of the fire extinguisher of the roadside equipment cabinet. Each dispensing assembly is controlled with the brake assembly rewind and mechanism. The 2 fusible linking connections, 2 fusible nut connections on the semi-trailer. The 2 fusible links are installed with the tank compartment discharge valves. 2 fusible nuts are on part of the operating lever assembly. If there is fire in any of these places, the fusible links and nuts melt and close the tank and the compartment discharge valve. Figure M1, figure 4-1, M131 and A5C, the 5,000 gallon semi-tank, semi-trailer. The M967 5,000 gallon semi trailer. The M967 5,000 gallon semi trailer was the Volk-Heller self-loaded, unloaded capacity designed with the General Highway limited cross-country use. It has a 5,000 gallon capacity, weighs for about 1,300 pounds to empty, and then 46,950 pounds full. The interior vehicle is 31 feet long, 8 feet wide, 9 feet high. The semi trailer can be transported by a C-130 aircraft. It also is designed to be towed by a 5-ton 6x6 truck trailer. Similar vehicles equipped with the fifth wheel with the four. It has a fording capability of 24 inches of salt and fresh water with a major component with the preparation technical manual 92320 with the 356 12 and P that gives the detailed information. Semi-trailer with the stainless steel tank body with an M967 and is constructed with one 5,000 gallon compartment with evenly distributed and integral baffles. The compartment has been pressure vacuum the vending of the main hold with locking devices walking with on the top of the tank with the semi-resistant steel with the grating with the fuel ladder with the full tank with the tank leads to the walkway. The tank compartment is connected with the piping of the vehicle. Fuel receives delivery system mounted with the roadside of the vehicle. The pump is engaging the compartment with the pumping the engine, fuel tank leading, then gear crank of the landing gear of the ground pound board of the curb side of the vehicle. This also hoses the trough of the emergency valve is shut off, and the two batteries on the curb side of the vehicle. Those hose through landing gear, ground box, toolboxes, control panel, roadside vehicles. This is portable and grounding in the manifold valve of the roadside vehicle. The auxiliary road engine pump assembly is located with the curbside equipment cabinet. It has 4 cylinders, 4-cycle variable speed, air-cooled diesel engine, self-priming, central figure 4-inch below the pressure pump. The auxiliary engine is started with the two 12-inch 12-volt batteries connected with the series. The battery is located with the left side of the equipment cabinet. The engine controls the instrument panel bowl is located with the roadside of the vehicle. The controls include the engine preheater, the switch, and engine throttle, the control panel light. This instrumental panel includes a voltmeter, tactometer, hour meter, oil pressure gauge, the fuel pressure gauge, the pump pressure gauge. The pump is connected with the auxiliary engine with the bearing, the mounted shaft, the firewall. Separated to two items, the pumping system has a bulk fuel delivery rate of up to 600 gallon per minute with a self-loaded rate of 300 gallon per minute. All right, the M697, the M696, the M969, 5,000 gallon semi-trailer. The M6969, 5,000 gallon semi-trailer is full dispensing semi-trailer used primarily for the refueling ground vehicles. The M969 is the same bulk delivery self-loaded with the capabilities of as the M967. The 5,000 gallon capacity weighs the 1,500 pounds, 15,000 pounds empty and 48,950 pounds full. The M969 has the small dimensions can be towed with the transported similar manner of the M967 tank of the semi-trailer. The tank body auxiliary engine with the pump assembly identical to the tank that of the M967. The technical manual N2320, the 356 12 and P gives the detailed information on the tank semi-trailer. In addition, with the equipment is included with the M967. The M969 includes the equipment required for the automotive refueling and limited aircraft refueling. This equipment is mounted with the side of the vehicle with the filter separated with the pump and the engine compartment with the engine fuel tank loading the gear crank and landing gear around the board of the curb side of the vehicle. This is also emergency shut off through a hose off battery compartment with the two batteries of the curb side vehicle. Those hosed through the portable grounding and landing gear board. Toolboxes control the manifold assembly hose reel cabinet on the road side of the vehicle. Filter separator is rated with a 300 gallon per minute with a 15 psi with 3 filtering stages. The first stage of the filtering through 15 filter element removing solid particles coalesce with the water and fuel. Second is 5 canisters separated with the water from the fuel. Let it drain the filter some separated pump. The 15 no-go fuse the acts of the safe device shut off all the fuel flow from other the 2 stages allowing water to exceed the safe level. 3 of the 3 fuses within each of the second stage elements. One of the other parts of the filter separate include the automatic drain valve, the main valve, and the drain valve, the pressure gauge, and the water in the filter separate. The reach and a certain level of the water is removed. The automatic drain valve, the valve is operated with the flow, which is rises in the water with the sinks of the flow. The water enters the filter some floats and rises. The float rises to a certain level. The float opens the drain valve, allowing the pump pressure to be applied to the diaphragm valve. The opening of the being drained. The fuel is continued to in water to enter the slumping faster than the automatic drain valve we can carry. And it away from the filter elements falls from the go fusing to stop the flow of fuel completely. The pressure gauge located with the instrumental panel with the roadside equipment of the cabinet indicates the amount of restriction with the filter separated to 1,000 gallon per minute with located with the roadside equipment cabinet of the M969. The meter of the counter registers up to 9,999 gallons. If you reset the counter to zero, push the button meter reset knob on the side of the meter to turn the clockwise. Then the meter may also be used during defueling operations. And trouble with the meter occurs with the tank of the vehicle to organize the maintenance. Utility meter that should be checked with the accuracy, making sure that the correct amount of the fuel is being delivered. There are 3 dispensing assemblies on the M969 tank semi-trailer. One of these assemblies is made up of 3 14-foot sections of 4-inch suction hose. The section is stored within the troughs located at the both sides of the vehicle. The assembly is the bulk delivery rate of 600 gallons per minute with the self-loaded rate up to 300 gallons per minute with the 2 assemblies are hosed into the roadside equipment. Each of the dispensing assemblies included with a meter and a hose reel with electrical rewind 50 feet of 1 1/4 inch dispensing hose, dispensing nozzle flow rate of the meter delivered to the fuel, gasoline, diesel, and up to 600 gallons per minute through the one nozzle and others both nozzles at the same time. Alright, the M970 5,000 gallon semi-trailer. The M970 5,000 gallon semi-trailer fuel dispensing semi-trailer primarily for the under-wing, over-the-wing refueling aircraft. It has 5,000 gallon capacity, weighs about 15,200 pounds empty, 49,150 pounds full. The M970, the bulk delivery rate up to 600 gallons per minute with a self-loaded rate up to 300 gallons per minute. It's designed to be towed within 5 tons of the 60,000 6x6 truck or similar vehicle equipped with a fifth wheel. The tank of the body stainless steel constructed with one of the 5,000 gallon compartment with a evenly distributed with the integral baffles compartment, the pressure vacuum vents, and a manhole with the locking device. The tank compartment is connected with the piping, the vehicle's fuel receipt delivery system, and the curbside cabinet. There is filter separator to 12-volt batteries pumping the engine compartment with the engine fuel tank, landing gear control with the emergency valve shut off with the roadside cabinet, hose with the landing of the rear gear ground board recirculation fitting in the portable ground rod toolbox manifold assembly control and instrumental panel hose reel cabinet. With the hose reel cabinet you have 1.5 inches hose reels with the hose and 2.5 inch hose reels with the hose and 300 gallon per minute assembly. The M978 Heavy Extendable Mobile Tactical Truck or HEMTT tanker. The M978 HEMTT or Heavy Extended Mobile Tactical Truck. Figure 4.2 is used for refueling the wheeled and tank track vehicles, aircraft, which on today's modern battlefield are more mobile than ever before. The M978 comes equipped with 2 hose reels, each of the containing 50 feet, 1.5 inch hose with service nozzles, 2.5 inch diameter pressure differential gauge with an indicates dirty or clean filter separator. There are 18 elements for the 18 canister. The vehicle can operate at 5 temperatures from 25 to 120 degrees. Forward water up to 48 inches deep with 5 minutes with the damage requiring the maintenance before operating. Continue maintain a speed of 25 miles per hour. 3% regraded with the full trailer of 100,000 pounds. 40 miles per hour with the 3% graded with the vehicle of only 60,000 pounds. Maintain speed up to 55 miles an hour while operating a full loaded with the trailer on the good or level road, starting the climb of 30% grade fully loaded with the trailer, starting the climb of 60% grade fully loaded without a trailer. The normal operating of the range of the transmission 8-wheel drive vehicle is 300 miles based on the 159 gallons of fuel. The M970 can be utilized self-loading filter and non-filter or recirculation bulk for delivery filter dispensing using overwing CCR nozzles to fueling. The M978 can also be an aircraft refueling operation utilizing the Heavy Extended Mobility Tactical Truck Tanker Aircraft Refueling System or HTARS. The HTARS kit is components for the use during the operation I discussed from the following lesson. The M970H Heavy Equipment Mobility Tactical Truck Tanker Vapor recovery system. The vapor recovery system can be installed in all modes of the tank of the semi-trailer. It requires certain ecological systems allowing the fuel depot to collect and recover the vapor gases that are presented during the loading operation. Vapors can be recycled back into the semi-trailer through the recovery system during the loading operation. The system consists of the vapor tight line running with the seal hood on the emergency valve and directly behind the manhole covered at the rear of the tank. The roll over the roll rail and roadside of the semi-trailer is used as part of the line adapter. End of the line is compatible with a 4-inch quick disconnection vapor recovery connections at majority of the field depots. Tank and pumping unit. The tank and the pumping unit consists of a 50-gallon per minute pumping assembly to two 500 or 600-gallon aluminum tanks. Related equipment, the unit is designed to transport up to 5-ton 6x6 cargo truck. Due to the fact that when the unit is filled with the fuel, it exceeds the load limit of 2.5-ton cargo trucks. The unit can be used to fill an empty 500, 600-gallon collapsible drums, 55-gallon and 5 gallons temporarily stored in product with the refueling ground of the vehicle to replace the supplemental space. Special purpose vehicle. The unit must be also used with the fuel aircraft and no other aircraft refueling equipment is available for the several standard models of the tank of the pump unit. The main differences of the pump, the filter separator, main manifold, hoses, and TM104930-204. The 15 operators organization direct support, general support, depot maintenance manual gives details on installing operation maintenance and different models of unit. Description of the various components is provided as follows. The tank shells have manhole assemblies, pump portable drainage plug, the discharge valve assemblies, control the discharge valve on the top of the tanks with the discharge valve outlet in the bottom of the rear of the tank of the drain plug with the bottom of the front of the baffle inside the shell helps to keep down the surge to protect during the transport. The two lifting rings are attached at the top of the end of each of the shells to make handling easier. Tetons are provided during the securing of the tanks in the vehicle bed. The pump is 50-gallon per minute with a self-priming and central vehicle pump. The impeller is screwed with the extension of the engine's crankshaft. The engine is 1-cylinder 4-cycle. The air-cooled with the hand-cranked engine with the same model with the 2-cylinder 4-cycle overhead valve with the air-cooled engine. The radio shelled magneto supplied with the ignition spark with the governor control of the engine speed by varying the throttle openings to suit the pump load or the gasoline tank that hold 1 gallon of the pump engine and mounted with the common base of so that they can be easily removed from the surface. They can be used on other pumping operations. The filter separator is vertically 50 gallons per minute of the capacity using the 4-strand of the canister filter element. The tank pump of the unit can be used for refueling the aircraft because the filter separator qualified with military specification MIL F8901C. Manifold. The manifold controls the flow of the product suction side of the pump with the two quick couplers provided with the connections, inlets, and the tank suctions of the product flow from either both of the tanks through the pump suction through the manifold outlet. The suction hose, some of the model of the discharge hose runs from the filter separator to the manifold product with the can be discharged from the manifold outlet when 3 waves of valves is issued to close off the suction side off the module of the other only manual manifold suction house reels. Dispensing housing reels store up the house reels of each of the recoiling toilet and spring at 40 feet for the length of the 1.5 inch for the non-collapsible discharge hose is used and each reel product of the filter separator enters the pump pipe with a half of a hub on the reel discharge through the hose of the ground reel. The ground reel is attached with the frame of the pumping assembly of the tank of the pumping unit, which can be grounded. One section of the ground wire may be clipped with the ground created near the tank of the pump unit before the section is connected with the vehicle being fueled. Metering. The metering consists of a meter that hose assembly with the couplers with the cap screws, washers in the kit used in pumping assembly on all tanks and pumping units. Other items issued with the pumping assembly drum pump unloaded with the stub of the employ of the 55-gallon drum, the 2 dispensing nozzle, the start rope, the carbon dioxide fire extinguisher tied down assembly. If the nozzle will have a lock-on latch opening device, the devices must be fixed so that they must be held open and by hand and attended at all times. Alright, Part B, gauging petroleum tank of vehicles. Each of the tank of their own gauge stick must be made with wood and metal depending on the type of the vehicle. It is important to keep the stick of the protected with the elements whenever not in use. The gauge stick is usually graduated in 25-gallon divisions before gauging any type of the vehicle down to the ground. The tank of the vehicle. Ground yourself from static unless you're touching the bare hand to the tank of the shell. Do not wear the hand gear loose item when you are on the top of the tank. Never gauge during the electrical storm. Position the fire extinguisher within 10 to 15 feet of the tank vehicle. Verify the shipping documentation and of the kind of fuel in the tank vehicle. Insert the thermometer as soon as you open the hatch. If quantity is less than 3,500 gallons, it is not necessary to take the temperature gauge of the compartment. Take all the level samples. Measure the API gravity sample. Record on the gauge with the worksheet. Correct the volume to 40 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit if required. Lesson 5. Direct unit and maintenance within the Army Maintenance Management System, TAMS, and assign via equipment. Critical Task 101, 519, 3302. Introduction. The Army must remain in the state in readiness at all times. Imperative that all the equipment is maintained and the records indicate the conditions which to render any piece of equipment not mission ready to be maintained. Update with a consistent manner at all basic levels, provided with the background and procedures accomplished to this task. Part A. Technical manuals. The most important tasks associated with the proper performance operator, crew level, the maintenance and the check of the services or PMCS, then mastering proper the use of the operator's technical manual. Once understanding how to use the technical manual as the guide using the preventive maintenance check services is acquired with the preventive maintenance checks services are on any piece of the Army equipment can be accomplished with minimal additional training. All the technical manuals -10 series are broken down into the following sections: table contents, caution and warnings, the chapter containing the preventive maintenance check service table, the back issues, the items list, and the chapter containing the maintenance of instruction. The preventive maintenance check service the table listed with the service that they are to be performed with the operator with the crew. They are performed with the internal shove own and numerical sequence with each of the internal is indicated below the item number. The preventive maintenance check service of the tables are broken in the following section: item sequence, number of columns, intervals, and I'm ready for the mission with the capable of the column. The items to be inspected, checking column are only Army vehicles, must other equipment that requires the operator level maintenance and have a 10 series technical manual organs similar to the operator crews performed different types of check services and different types of intervals, different regions that described below. Before operation, preventive maintenance check services, the checks are performed by the operator crew, preferably 10 technical manuals, preventive maintenance check service tapes, and identified with the preventive maintenance preventive performance of the mission must be corrected prior to the start of the mission. All other faults corrected if above the operator crew authorization to correct are reported during and or after the mission. During the operation of preventive maintenance check services, these are checks performed by the operator crew through the technical manual, preventive maintenance check services, the tables monitor and identify the faults of the equipment performance during the missions and faults when under the equipment not mission capable required immediate correction. All other faults are corrected if and above the operator crew the authorization to correct the reported during and or after the mission. After operation, preventive maintenance check services, these checks or services performed per the 10 series the technical manual performance maintenance check services tables immediately in conclusion with the mission are used to identify the corrective faults which are prevent the next mission to go to maintain equipment of the 10-20 standard. The faults that will render the equipment is not mission capable must be corrected prior to the start of the next mission. All other faults are corrected if the operator or in crew level authorization to correct the reported unit mission maintenance before the next mission. Periodic operator of the crew of the preventive maintenance check service. The crew check with the service performed. The operator crew of the per 10,010 series. The technical manual, the PM and PMCS tables, items to be checked. The column and identify the faults which must be corrected with the maintained equipment. The 1020 technical manual fault recorded with the correction beyond the operator crew level will be reported to unit level of maintenance required. The lubrication order, this is where to find the lubrications, find the locations of the type of the capacity of the petroleum oil lubricating products, equipment, the purpose of the various checks of the service, identify the equipment, the faults, and things that are wrong with the equipment, service some points, but they require frequent attention. The two types of equipment and defects identified with the preventive maintenance check services. Fault is defective with a piece of equipment that does not provide with the operation of the equipment must be corrected as soon as possible. That / symbol states that is entered the DA form 2404 that indicate the faults exist. Deficiency is in a fault with a piece of equipment so served that it causes the equipment not mission capable. The X in the status entered in the status of the DA form 2404 indicated deficiency. As the preventive maintenance check service is being performed, the items to be checked with the inspected column and the preventive maintenance check service table show which tells you what to check and how to check to see if there is any equipment default deficiency. The fault deficiency identified, it must be determined and can be corrected with the operator crew level. Then will have to be entered on the DA form 2404 unit level. The magnet annex to correct it beyond the capability of operator crew to correct. Then must be find out the faults have been previously identified and reported to the unit maintenance personnel. If the fault has been previously identified, it should be entered with the equipment is uncorrected fault record of the DA form 2408. 14. The fault of the listed for the equipment tells whether the necessary corrective action must be delayed with the copy of the equipment DA form 2408. 14 should be included should be in the equipment record file, but whenever the preventive maintenance check service is performed previously reported but the faults are not entered, is not fault to be identified with the checking the DA form 2408. 14 entering the sequence number of the checking being by the faulty was found with the description of the fault. The looks for that not ready to be available if in the column of the preventive maintenance check service to determine the fault identified with the description of the deficiency. Less step is reducing the process within the circle. The preventive maintenance check service items numbers and the status of the symbol X, which will tell us the unit level mechanics of the equipment is not mission capable. There are 4 categories of maintenance that you should be familiar with. O and OC, operating crew and maintenance check the tighten replacing screws. F, the direct maintenance support maintenance replace and adjust. H, the general support maintenance rebuild. And D, the depot maintenance renovates and sends equipment back to the supply system. Alright, Part B, the equipment record and folder. The equipment record folder holds the forms needed to keep the equipment in use, the operation condition with the only dispatch using the item. Each equipment goes on the dispatch description of the items contained in its files. The Department of Defense Form 314, the equipment identification card, the ties the particular equipment of record form to the item. The equipment identification card goes in the outside of the pocket of the equipment record with the form folder information for the card, but is used to identify the equipment covered with the keep of the track service due to the identified assigned operator and later the dispatcher operator make the card locally using the card to keep the service to make sure that the right folder is issued. The dispatcher, whoever keeps the DoD Form 314 to update the information on the card of each of the scheduled services is extremely important to keep the information on the equipment identification card current. The equipment identification card is thrown away whenever it's no longer needed but no longer readable. Replace the forms when they are no longer readable. Department of Defense Form 1970 Motor Equipment Utilization Record. Used to record the equipment, motor equipment and used in order to control the use of special purpose combat, tactical, non-tactical vehicles, equipment, including material handling equipment. This in all form also keeps the running time of the equipment that requires the service to pull by the hours. This includes such equipment as generators, air compressors, central figure pumps. The running time that is the period of operation forms to keep the running time only will be using destination and sections filled. The form is used with the varying periods depending on its use. The regular dispatch of this form is used to space where either the operative destination section have been filled with the extended dispatch of the form is used to all space of the operative with the destination section have been filled with DA Form 5987E motor equipment dispatch EGA one set generated by the ULLL as replaces the requirement of the Department of Defense Form 1970. The dispatcher fills out the following space: the date, of the month, and the year, the type of equipment, registration, serial number, the administration number, organization name, and user operator name, time out, miles, hours, person over which the operator reports dispatcher signature. The operator filling out the following: the operator's signature, time in miles and hour, the type of the total time the equipment uses, the total miles, destination, section, fuel, oil, and remarks. The person named with the report to the section, the signed with the form, the release by the section. The operator returns the completed form to the dispatcher. The DA Form 2404. Maintenance requires the user to report the battle damage, repair, and replacement action. The unit level maintenance is also used on any one of the performing inspection, the maintenance of the service designation checks, technical evaluations by the performance maintenance check services, the operation used for the performance, a list of faults for the cannot fix that is used for the temporary record of the record completed with the maintenance. The DA Form 5988E, when generated by the ULLS, replace requirements of the DA Form 2404 status report symbol entries on the DA Form 2404 with made as follows. The X indicates the deficiency of the equipment that places the inoperable status. Circled X indicates the deficiency, however, the equipment may be operated under specific limitations directed with the higher authority is prescribed locally until the correction can be made. Accomplished horizontal dash indicates the required inspection components of the complete replacement maintenance operation check of the test flight and is due to B has been accomplished and overdue modification of work order has been accomplished. Diagonal backslash indicates the material defect or other than the deficiency must be corrected to increase the efficiency to make the item completely serviceable. Last name initial black and blue ink or pencil indicates the completely satisfactory condition exists. For aircraft, the status symbols are corrected in red. Status symbols can be changed with the discretion of the commander with the maintenance of the motor officer. The commander of the maintenance of the motor officer to describe the assigned status symbol. He or she takes the following actions. In column D, write the status symbol charge on the next opening line. Enter the new status and the symbol in false and single in block 9A and the item in column E. The commander and maintenance motor officer are the only person who can circle the X and change the status and the other entries of the DA Form 2404 as made as follows. Block 1, unit of the equipment belongs, name of the model of the equipment, serials number, the registration of the equipment, type of the preventive maintenance check service, daily, weekly, etc. Block 7, the technical manual date. If the manual changes the print, last change the number after the technical number manual. The block 4, 5, 8A, and columns A, B, and D. Left blank deficiency fault when the deficiency fault is corrected with the downgrade of circled X. Entries will be made with the block 4 and 5 at the end of the dispatch operation. Block 4 and 4A and 4B, the miles and hours entries of the applicable meter reading of the day of the block 5. At the block 5 with current calendar date, column A, technical manual item number, the technical manual, no number deficiency fault, enter the page and paragraph of the sequence of the fault and number covered with the preventive maintenance check service A blank column B, the sets and the symbols that apply to the column C, the deficiency, shortcoming, the brief describing the fault, continuing the inspection to make sure that no other faults exist. Column D, if lists the corrective actions taken after the preventive maintenance checks are listed and all the faults cannot be fixed by the operator or listed, the form is turned over to the maintenance supervisor. Lesson 6. Direct refuel on the move, or ROM. Direct refuel on the move, or ROM, operations critical task 101.519.33.11. Introduction. Due to the increase of the ground equipment conveys the being used through the threat of the transportation personal equipment, the fuel is forwarded to the areas. The doctrinal purpose of the refuel on the move to be extended with the time of the ground maneuver. The force is to be spent with the objective of refuel on the move. The operation are flexible and should be tailored to be the situation while providing several operations on how to conduct the refuel on the move operation. This lesson does not dictate dictate one and only school solution. Safety consideration, especially peacetime of the training with the refuel on the move, but the train operations should be carefully throughout the out of the improperly supervised executed. Remember to consider the mission, enemy terrain, and the troops and times available. Met T. Refuel. The refueling on the move concept. The refueling on the move of the ground vehicles is simultaneously with the rapid hot refueling of the aircraft. The refuel on the move is normally accomplished as far as forward the battlefield tactical situation permits prior to the tactical assembly. The doctrinal purpose of the refuel on the move extends with the time of the ground maneuver forces whenever the suspended objectives all through the refuel on the move. The tailored over the situation as well as the vehicles on the refuel on the move. The side of the refueling, they receive predetermined amount of fuel, usually time of the move over out of the return of the conveying of the formation. The distinguishing in the route conveying of the refueling operation. The manner in which the refueling is done depends on what is the tactical situation. The industry of the refueling operation depends on the number of the vehicles to be refueled, the distance unit, the traveling, how many times the unit wanted to be refueled, and however the assembly operation of each of the refuel on the move is basically the same. Due to the safety standards and consideration, normal vehicles refueling is done with the engines off. Part B, the common parts of the refueling on the move. The common parts of the making of the refueling on the move, not acceptable 314 by 4 the suction hose, and then it goes through different NSN's quantity items. Refuel on the move assembly, and disassembly. Part C, the refuel on the move, environmental safety procedures, enforcement, grounding of the bounding of the procedure for the fuel segments, trailer pumping, the filter separators, each of the refueling member point, the pump, making sure the fuel handlers will wear protective clothing, for example, the standard combat uniforms, hearing protection goggles, gloves, with the consumption of the standard uniform, other items normally provided by the organization, locate the fire extinguisher, each of the refueling point, source of the fuel, place the fuel drips at each of the refueling point of the fuel source, when draining the drips, observe the fire safety environmental precautions, ensure the fuel spills and procedures equipment is the minimum included the absent absorbent shovel, the container, the standard operation procedure, the detail and equipment procedure responsible for the environment and ensure the standard operation procedure filter federal, state, and local requirements. Part D, refuel on the movement, equipment and equipment configuration. Refuel on the movement is concept equipment independent as long as the concept is filed with any of the number of the current with the equipment configurations can be used within the duty. The refuel on the move operation, refuel on that move operations can be employed anywhere on the battlefield where there is need to be rapidly refuel with the combat vehicles. The refuel on the move, the kit consists of enough hose, the valve, the fitting with the refuel up to 8 combat vehicles at the same time. The kit takes care of the transportation of the refuel on the move. A cargo vehicle payload with the capacity greater than 1.5 ton can be used in the refuel on the move. Weighs about 2,900 pounds. It can be loaded on the refueling transportation semi-trailer due to the limit of the weight of the semi-trailer. The main force of the 5,000-gallon fuel of the semi-trailer model is 969 and M131 A5C on the onboard filter separator. The average flow rate of each of the 8 nozzles using semi-trailer with a 35 gallon per minute with the area to set up with the operator with the 8-point ROM kit with a 550 feet long with 150 feet wide. Multiple tankers can be connected with the refuel on the move kit. Means the Y and T fitting the valves, and one tanker will be dispensing the fuel through the refuel on the move to the refuel vehicles. The remainder of the tanker is back up ready to replace the issued tanker when it is empty. Note, if conducting multiple tanker operations, fuel should not be received in the dispensing of any of the same tanker at the same time. This would be possible with the top loading, which the safety has the tanker is emptied with the fuel dispensing towards the transfer of the backup of the tanker is B, and reset the valves Y and the valves at the Y and the T. This will allow the fuel to continue the combat vehicles. Fuel semi-trailers could be shuttled into from the refuel on the move the site to the maintained fuel or tanker site. Party refueling operations. The site selection signal with the plan of the contingency plan with equipment failure. Make sure that there is enough room to the side of the move of the equipment. Most of the natural cover the concealment, including the signal system coordinated with the operation using the signal starting with the stop of the refueling operation coordinated with the vehicle series from the holding in the areas using the arm and handle single the flags of the day during the day and long distances may require the radio communication night and low visibility conditions, chemical light and flashlights for signals. Refueling operations separate the area of the location before the refueling of the refueling on the movement site. The coordinates area coordinated with areas before the starting of the operation. Use the first area prior to the refuel on the move. They organize the march of the column survey. The series of vehicles equipped with the refueling points available to call the vehicles forward out of the holding of the area of this one several series at the time of the move and install into the position receive the predetermined amount of the movement. Fuel the area each of the serial has received allotted fuel and move to the second holding area after the refueling on the move and sides to the second holding area. Organize the vehicle back into the convoy marching elements combat formation set up at the preventive maintenance check service the operator to retrieve the equipment used in the operation ensure the safety. For example, the grounding, fire extinguisher, non-smoking signs, drip pan, special equipment is in place with the personal familiar procedures. Ensure the personal and familiar equipped with the operational control sling, no flashlight, radio to be used by fuel nozzle to be refueled. The vehicles convey personnel assistant driver the commander with not available to refueling their own vehicles. Ensure the vehicles in safety enter the remove the fuel on the move and receive the prescribed amount of fuel. Document of quantity of the fuel used. Documentation of the quantity of the fuel used is either the DA Form 3643 DA issued to the petroleum products, DA Form 2765-1, and reissue and terminated depending on the situation. Lesson 7, Direct Assembly Operation Preventive Maintenance Check Services, Assembly of Heavy Extended Mobility Tactical Truck, or HEMTT Tanker Aviation Refueling System, HTARS. Critical Task 101-519-3317. Lesson 7, Direct Assembly Operation Preventive Maintenance Check Services Assembly of Extended Mobility Tactical Truck, or HEMTT Tanker Aviation Refueling Tanker Refueling System. The heavy tanker aviation refueling system kit consists of enough hoses and fittings nozzles to expand for the heavy equipment mobility tactical truck. Tankers capability of hot fuel refuel up to 4 helicopter simultaneously using onboard fueling service pump. The equipment is lightweight, has manually operated controls. The equipment with the valve, the swivel adapters, local connections between in the cam lock and the unisex type of the fittings. The equipment can be used for the 4 areas that can be transported in the storage box. The HEMTT tanker. Part A and equipment. The discharge hose. The system consists of a 2 and 3 inch discharge hose, 1 and 3 inch of the 50-foot hose used to connect the HTARs to the HEMTT tactical tanker car. Are the 10 2 inch of the 50-foot discharge hose transfer the fuel from the heavy equipment maintenance mobile tanker trucker tanker for the aircraft. 6 hoses they use to manifold 1 of each of the 4 issues lines. For there are 11 carrying straps for each for easy handling of the rolled hoses. Valve fittings. The valves and the fittings are components of the HR. The 3 T connectors, the flow control. Handling to open and close the valve. The T connector split with the flow of the fuel. The 2 elbow connectors direct to the flow of the fuel. The 3 valve adapters to connect with the threaded unisex parts as well as the cam lock of the unisex part. The 1 side oval adapters connect the cam lock of the unisex part. The nozzle of the HCR is equipped with the 4 types of the nozzle. The 4 type of the CCR nozzle of the unisex adapter for the overweight and nozzle can be managed with the CCR nozzle to perform on-port refueling of the system. The recirculation nozzle can be connected with the HEMTT tanker to recirculate the fuel and system. They equip with the fuel system pour with the sample pour tube and the sample fuel and a recirculation nozzle mated with the CCR nozzle. There are 4 D-in-1 nozzles to equip the system with the center point refueling. The overpack and other required items. Each system has an overpack spare with the additional parts of the accessory following parts for the overpack of the spares with the 1 T connector, the 2 inch by 50-foot discharge with 1 carry strap, with the easier handling with the roll hose, the 10 dust seals, and 2 dust caps, the 4 grounding rods, other items, equipment that are required for the conducting aircraft refueling operations with the HTARs or equipment with the 5 extinguishers required 1 to be which with each of the onboard pump, the 1 needs refueling point. Signs will need to be posted with the refueling site. All water can spilling containers will be needed to be available. Figure 7.1 shows the major components: your hoses, your fire extinguishers, your T's, your Y's, your gaskets and dust caps, and everything else. Part B: equipment layout. The layout of the H-charts is the manner most practical situation, avoiding the obstacles with the advantage of the terrain features of the laying out. The equipment will never remove the dust cap until you are ready to make a connection. The preventing the dust, in particular matter, with the entering of the system and the causing fuel and contamination. Likewise, disassembling of the can be equipped with immediately after uncoupling. When laying out the H-charts, follow the procedure below. Position the vehicle selects the most level ground to position the M978 HEMTT tanker. They avoid areas near the body of the water to avoid contamination. Use high ground and possibility to prevent vapor accumulation. Position the vapor. Remember, the system should be laid out so that the helicopters can land, refuel into the headwind, crosswind, and make most of the natural concealment. Position vehicle to allow easy existing without the blocking of any of the exits. After the position of vehicle, drive the ground rod and at least 3 feet into the ground. Attach the vehicle ground cable to the ground rod and position the fire extinguisher within easy reach and post the non-smoking signs. Connection system components. Connect 3-inch 50-foot discharge hose to the suction of the hose to the HEMT tanker. The suction hose that's connected with the bulk receptacle filled with the HEMT tanker. Connect the T to the 30-inch discharge hose. Roll the 2-inch by the 50-foot discharge hose from the bottom of both sides of the T and connect the discharge hose to the T. Connect another T to at the end of the 2-inch discharge hose. Roll out the connection to 2-inch 50-foot discharge hose to the other tree. At the other end of the both of the outer 2-inch discharge hose, connect the elbow fitting the unrolled connecting 2-inch by 50-foot discharge hose to each of the two fatigues. The elbow fittings of the flow handles in the flow position after the connections are made. Note that the unisex fittings will not correct the flow handles are in the flow position. Connection to nozzle. Connect the type of the nozzles being used to operate within 2-inch discharge hose to each of the point. The CCR and D1 nozzles connect the 2-inch discharge hose over the wing of the open part of the recirculation nozzle made with the outlet. With the CCR, refer to the technical manual 5, 49, 32, 35, 13, and P. Operators units intermediate with the direct support. Manual repair parts with the special toolkits, closed circuit, refueling nozzle part, assembly model number is 125 10,000. Model number 125-0505 for the information of the nozzles. Ground equipment. Driving the grounding item to the grounding 10 feet back from the end of the dispensing hose. Loop the dispensing hose at each point of the background. Grounding rod hanging the nozzle of the ground rod hanger. Connecting the clip of the nozzle. Grounding the wire to the ground rod at each of the point. Places the CO2 dry chemical fire extinguisher. Also places spill container in the filled valve. Gallon water can at each point. Camouflage equipment. Camouflage for the truck system is to the extent that required for the tactical situation. No natural concealment such as woodiness, hedgerows, vegetation, natural terrain contours should be used when possible. Straight lines of the hose line can be broken and breaking branches, placing them under the hose line to hold the branches in place. The HCR setup shows the T system there. Alright, Part C, preparation and operation. Ensure all safety environmental precautions have been taken to verify that all safety and firefighting equipment is placed in place and serviceable. Check landing lights for the required to perform daily before operation. Preventive maintenance. Check service on the HEMTT tanker, Aipd Technical Manual Technical Manual 923202791. Operators Manual Vehicle Manual Volume number 11 for the M977 series, the 8x8 heavy expanded mobile tactical truck, HEMTT. On the HR's Technical Manual 54930237710, inspect the discharge valve of the fitting nozzle of the grounding system. Ensure that all refueling personnel are wearing proper protective clothing. As soon as the system is full of the fuel and ready to operate with each of the days, all the sample of each of the nozzle fuel does not pass test. Inspections does not use isolate, resample to send the valve fuel sample to the supporting laboratory. Wait for the laboratory instructions on disposition. Sequencing and operation. The HRS has two primary modes of operation: refueling, recirculation. Refueling mode, the fuel is pumped with the HEMTT tanker through the system hose at the refueling point of the nozzle. Recirculation mode, refueling nozzle, the CCR D1 nozzle. Disconnected with the refueling point of the recirculation nozzles. Connect the recirculation nozzles connected with the HEMTT tanker. The fuel circulates through the system hose back to the tanker. The HRs can operate with both sides at the same time. Refueling mode. To operate the HRs through the refueling mode, with the following procedures start and operate the HEMTT tanker IDAW Technical Manual N923202791. Ensure the soldier manning the nozzle guides the aircraft into the position using signals, checking the pilot to be sure and armaments but unsafe. Deplane the crew and the passenger. Passenger must be designated with the passenger marshalling air members of the crews except for the pilot. Pilot may be remain in the control if necessary should the deplane Assist with the refueling, placing it in which reach the aircraft fill port. Ensure the pilot notifies the commander that he will be off the air refueling and the monitoring of his radios during the refueling. He should never transmit the crew chief. Pilot may talk during the intercom during refueling. All right. Grounding the aircraft. Grounding the aircraft defuel during the refueling no longer required for the NFPA standard 77 and 407. Grounding will not prevent sparking on the fuel surfaces. Bounding the nozzle for the aircraft in one or two ways, either by inserting the bond plugs into the plug, receivingly attaching the clip of the nozzle of the bond capable to bear with the metal part of the aircraft other than the antenna. After the nozzle is bounded with the aircraft, remove the dust cap from the nozzle, open the aircraft's fill of the port, verify that all the valves of the HEMT tank or the fuel nozzles are open. Do not leave the nozzle at any time during the refueling. Stop the flow of the fuel if there is any emergency for the refueling point. 3 types of nozzles can be used for the aircraft refueling. Use the center point D1 CCR over wing open port nozzle as described below. Center point refueling nozzle operation. Remove the dust cover over the end of the nozzle bottle. Grasp the handle to handle the nozzle alignment with the aircraft with the refueling adapter. Press the nozzle against the adapter. Turn the handle to the right until the end of the nozzle mates the lock of the aircraft refueling adapter. Rotate the control handle to the full open position. Pilot signal will tank is filled. Disconnect the rotate the control level of the fill closed with the grasp of the handle to rotate with the nozzle body to the left until the disconnect from the aircraft adapter to the control CCR nozzle. Make the CCR nozzle to fill port. Pull on the back control handle latch, then push the control handle up towards the aircraft to the flow position. The aircraft is to be filled completely with the back of the nozzle. The red indicator will pop out of the back of the nozzle when the aircraft tank is full. Pull off the flow with the control handle to remove the no flow position and latch the nozzle. Over wing or open port nozzle. The rapid refueling hot using the open port nozzle is restricted in combat and vital training of the Chapter 14 Field Manual 1067-1. The decision using the open port nozzle must be made with the commander. The open port nozzle is mated with the CCR nozzle. The end of the nozzle is placed with the aircraft fuel tank adapter. The CCR nozzle is to flow with the squeeze blank control handle to dispensing the fuel, which water will fill the port with the filling of the tank. If the tank is near the fill, easier the trigger than finish with the filling of the more slowly. When the tank is full, with the release of the trigger, move the flow of the control with the CCR nozzle to no flow position. Be sure that the flow has been stopped completely when removing the nozzle from the fill port. Replace the cover of the aircraft fill port with the dust of the cap of the nozzle. Upload nozzle bonding of the plug of the release of the bonding clip. Carry the nozzles back to the hangar. Do not lay it on the drag it across the ground. Release the ground cable from the aircraft. Take the fire extinguisher back to the position with the near the nozzle hanger. Have the aircraft passenger reboarded with the aircraft. Turn off the pump of the HEMTT tanker if no other aircraft is being refueled after receiving the clearance. The aircraft lifts off. Recirculation mode. One of the recirculation nozzles supplied with the 8 shards that recirculate the entire system. When the recirculation procedure must be performed, each of the refueling point to perform the recirculation flow procedure listed below. Connect the recirculation nozzle or to the refueling point. The CCR nozzle reposition the hose that is required to reach the HEMTTR tanker. Connect the recirculation nozzle to the HEMTT tanker bottom, loading the receptacle as been pressing the nozzle body against the ace receptacle, turning the handle to the right, opening the nozzle body, locks firmly to the receptacle. Start the operation of the HEMTT tanker. IAW Technical Manual N9 2320-279-10. Alright, set up this control, the CCR nozzle to open, rotate the recirculation nozzle to control the level to the following open position. If needed, the fuel sample may be taken during the recirculation mode. Recirculation nozzle is equipped with a hand-operated ball valve to allow the sample to fuel entering the tank of the fuel sample. Place the end of the tube in the sample the container. Slowly move the control handle on the ball valve to the open position. When the sample is complete, set the control handle on the ball valve to the closed position. When the recirculation is complete, set the recirculation nozzle control handle to the closed position. Set the control nozzle to the no flow position. Shut down the HEMTT tanker. IW Technical Manual 92320-279-10-1. Disconnect the recirculation nozzle from the HEMTT tanker. Alright, Lesson 8. Direct loading and unloading of the waterborne barges and tankers. Section Critical Acts 101, 519, 1166. Introduction. More than half of the tonnage handled with the military patrol and do your job in the supervisory must know the responsibility and procedure for loading and unloading petroleum tanker and barges. The military sea lift command control with the tanker of the fleet provide the worldwide transportation of the petroleum products, refinery, Department of Defense, storage facilities of the tanker fleet, which consists of approximately 30 tankers, and which vary in size from the 27,000 to 38,000 times the various type of the lease contracts as flow of the barboat charter of the tanker of the lease for the military sea lift command, military sea lift command personnel, crew shift responsible for all the expenses, the time and charter for all the weeks and number of the years for the owner provides for the crew that pays all the expenses. Single voyage charter the ship lease for the single voyage for the owner responsible for the crew, the all expenses, dirty services, the heating of the oils and crude services, cleaning services, the furnish. Finishes products only a ship can carry out the split cargoes without prior approval from the Defensive Energy Supply Center. We refer to the various locations on the ship when describing the certain conditions of the ship with the following terms are used: bow, the front of the vessel; stern, the rear end of the vessel, also called the aft section; midship, center of the vessel; port, the left side of the ship with the standing midship with the facing the bow; starboard, the right side of the ship with the standing of the midship with the facing the bow; bunkering, the fuel which is used to power the ship; the gross tonnage, the total internal cubic capacity of the vessel less accepted space, such as tanks, ballast water. The weight is expressed in units of 100 cubic feet per ton. Net tonnage of the registered tonnage of the ship. After the deductions have been made from the gross tonnage. Example deductions are crew and navigation spaces. Light displacement with the weight of the vessel. This does not include the weight of the cargo, passenger, fuel, water stores, and other items that may be needed voyage. Load displacement. The total weight of the vessel includes the weight of the cargo, passenger, fuel, water stores, and other items needed for the voyage. Dead weight tonnage of the carrier, the capacity of the vessel, and load long tons are 2,240 pounds, and difference between light and loaded displacement. Alright, Part B, barges and pump and tanks and manifolds. Barges are self-propelled, but the barges are moved under their own power and used in inland and the coastal waterways. They must be maintain a crew at all times. No self-propelled. They must be moved by tugboats and can be used for temporary storage. They equip for their own pumping system. Pumps and tankers, the two pumping system. Central pumps are offloading the cargo gear, piston pumps, and stripping of the cargo tank and then dryer. The ship's tank and the manifolds. Most tanks are used for the capable of carrying out 5 different products. Ship tanks are arranged in the breast and the numbers of the bow and stern. Part C, waterfront facilities, multiple leg monitoring system, single point mooring system, monobuoy jetties. Jetties are used for the water depth of the shoreline with the unsuitable berth and the tankers, dock and piers. The dock and piers are the most secure. The unloading tankers security is easier to maintain. Access to the tanker is easier the case with the emergency and maintenance. They are protected with the winds and tide shouldn't be just separated with other cases, and the supply of the depth should be at least 10 feet wide. 10 feet of the water under the biggest tanker you accept the receive fully loaded. It means low tide of the figure 8-1. A1 shows the layout of the marine dock facility with the tanker, starting with an unloading cable switch with the 8-inch gasoline hose on the crotch of the spools of the 12-inch welded pipe on the dock of the tanker, and 2 facilities in short line with the dock, tanker unloading facility, a 3 facility shoreline dock, and a 4 facility shoreline dock. Part D, equipment and requirements, storage tank at the minimum of 2 tanks of each with the product of the ballast water, oil, water, separated with the treatment of the ballast water, firefighting equipment, portable fire extinguisher, and an engineer with the firefighting dock and detachment, pollution control equipment, skimmer, boats, suburban materials, booms, communication have to be from the dock to the ship, the tanker, the farm, the transportation, ground transportation, workboats, transportation man, equipment for the tanker, ground system from the bounding of the ship to the dock. The dock is cathodic protection system that should be turned off before the transfer of fuel begins. Base laboratory should be available in the testing of the product. Alright, Part E, the tanker arrival schedule and checks to ensure the type of the quantity of the product is known. The personnel is also to meet the tanker to go aboard in the harbor of the terminal. Representative, lab technician, customer official may be also required to make sure the berthing of the facility is clear of the tanker, the type. Tanker to tie up the cargo. The loading arms will be checked and maintenance performed. If the cargo hoses are to be used, they will be pressure tested and flanges checked. If the shores of the tank are to gauge and separate and sample the product and transferred to the creator. The ullage is required with all pipelines, manifolds checked in the package of the product of the dock. Maintenance performed with all pumps and all gauges checked, with all communications checked from the docks of the vessel to the tanker farm. Booms and skimmer boats and must be ready to be deployed, and portable fire extinguishers are placed in all critical locations. The terminal commander is responsible for operations starting with the ship's manifold, pipeline patrol, hose, watch, shift changes. The master of the vessels is responsible for all the shipboard action paperwork, includes the tanker activity report card, report in DA Form 2501. 251 tanker barge inspection receiving port with the tanker activity port is used the worksheet in the field of DOD Form 251. Information concerning the completion of the DOD Defense Form 251 can be found in the AR 710 21. Part 5 is the supervisor. You ensure that the environmental safety procedures observed that any of the infractions immediately corrected with the spills will be cleaned up and reported by the IAW of applicable regulations and procedures. The valve seals, prior to unloading the valves, are brought with the vessel and checked to ensure that they have been sealed with the seal numbers have been corrected with the Department of Defense Form 251. Pumping for JP4 with the pumping that commences the report, reduce the flow rate and not exceed 3 feet per second until the flow line in the tank is covered with the fuel. Any delays are recorded within the time of the section of the Department of Defense Form 251. This may determine whether the delay is the demurrage. Stripping one of the central figure loops in the selection of the stripper pumps are brought to in line with this tank of the pump, and the pumps are dried. Completion of offloading when the ships of the tanks are empty, but they are inspected with the terminal personnel with the dry tank of the safe certificate issued. If the product is found with the tank, it cannot be removed, and the fact recorded with the remarks from the Form DOD 251. Gauging short the tank after the pumping and the settling of the storage tank is gauged with the amount of the recorded with the Department of Defense 250. The amount received and less than recorded with the Department of Defense Form 250 loaded with the storage should be removed on half of the 1%. It will require investigation by the applicable defensive fuel supply system center fuel region upon the Department of Defense 250 for the reason the inventory submission of the paperwork must be done as possible. Departure after the tank has been departed with the pier and cleaned up to may be ready for the next operation. Alright, Part G. As soon as the vessel is docked, the terminal commander's representative should be checking the cargo to determine the product that will be loaded. First, the action will be mutually agreed. The ballast of the ballast shore tank should be checked to ensure the ullage is available to accept the ballast of the tanker. Checking the ship tank. The ship tank should be checked to ensure that they are clean and free of the ballast and suitable for the receiving product. Pumping fuel follow the same product with unloading. When the tank is 97% full, reduce the pumping rate to avoid the spills of the overflow. Full up the procedure will allow enough of the time to tanks to settle, but the gauging each the tank calculated with quantity load. Obtain all the levels sampled to each of the compartment. The running of the Type C test according to the Military Handbook 200. Gauge shore tanks comparable to the quantities pumped and the quantities received after the product of the pump quality and the quantity have been determined. Checked on seals and hatches. Seal the valves and crossover. Record all the numbers on the Department of Defense Form 251. Lesson 9. Direct Railway Car Operations. Critical Task 101 519 3314. Alright, Lesson 9, Direct Railway Car Operations, Critical Task 101, 519, 3314. Introduction. Most countries in the world have established railway networks, major means of transportation. Petroleum railway tanker provided with the efficient way to transport large quantities of the bulk fuel efficiently. The petroleum specialist here is subject to worldwide assignment may encounter the railway tanker cars as a heavy duty station. It should be essential that proficiently in all aspects of the railway tanker car operation. Part A. Inspection of the railway cars. Cars are inspected suitability, use the proper documentation, security seals. Generally, the petroleum railway car has been one compartment. However, there are some other more than one compartment that can carry the multiple products. Cars are manufactured with different gauges of the seal bending depending on the usage of the. May be equipped with the heaters to liquefy the high velocity product. Typically, each of the compartments is the bottom of the outlet with the U.S. 5-inch outlets and the standard overseas 4-inch outlets are standard. Each compartment has to the dome through in which the railway car may be loaded, unloaded, inspected, cleaned, and repaired. The dome provides room for the expansion product. Even the temperature rises, may be hinged and bolted and screwed on. The tank of the car is equipped with a safety valve. The safety valve is used for the most of the tanker cars. Consists of the poppet valve, the spring loader to determine pressure. The pressure developed in the dome is increased to the point to access the pressure setting of the valve. The valve is forced with the valve C, thereby permitting the access the vapor excess. When the pressure drops to the level equal to the level valve of the C setting, and the spring closes valve automatically. Part B, loading and unloading railway tanker cars. The minimum distance of the tanker car loading operation building should be at least 100 feet with the spur of the track path should be provided with the loading and unloading the tanker cars. The trackage should be available to maintain an equal depth of the product through the tanker car compartment. The level of track is necessary for the accurate gauging. Tank, if the preventing of the air should be trapped in one end of the tank where the tank is closed. The site should be provided with the adequate drainage of the grounding of the car. Minimum of 4 cables derails should be installed with the heading of the siding of the other cars from the backing of the siding during the transfer operation. The metal rail derail is approximately 8 inches long of the forward of the forward and flat portion of the 6-inch long of the rear. The wedge of the shape of the portion is about 12 inches long. Is attached to the top of the one of the rail with the track of the 6-inch portion lays on the flat on the track of the wedge of shape with the gradually elevates with the heat of about 1 foot with 1/4 of an inch of the derail of the first car with the train back in the side of the sum of the derail. Was designed in the same manner of the wood. The derails may be installed with the location to prevent cars from rolling to the danger area. The brakes are released accidentally or failed to hold the derails, or provided they must be set and locked to operate with so that the furniture and protection is intended. Part C, unloading and unloading facilities and equipment. When there are more than one filling point, use loading or rack should be spaced to allow the several cars to be loaded at one time. Each of the filling points should be grounded and should be equipped with the bonding cable for the bonding. The filling point of the tanker car into the track of a flexible hose long enough to reach the bottom of the tank should be connected to the outlet of the loading on the arm. Emergency valve should be located at the distance from the rack so that the line can be brought into the case for the buyer and loading the rack. Loading racks may be supplied with the bottom product directly with the bulk storage tank of the pipelines greatly for gravity flow of the fixed portable pumping. The units must be used to transfer the product distribution manifold consistently necessary of the piping, the valves extending with the loading rack of the provided for the outlets, loading and unloading several containers entire one-time flexible length of hosing should be provided with the permit. The loading of the cars that have been domed. The manifolds must be grounded and equipment with the cable bonded modified with the bonding of the track of the tank of the cars. The standard of the car mover should be provided with the spotting of the tank's electrical equipment operating areas such as the lights, switches, motors must be explosion-proof construction and must be good in working condition. Wood cone-shaped plug with a suitable plugging model. Bottom outlet of the tanker car should be available in case of emergency. The possible pump assembly must be positioned minimum 50 feet away from the railway car. Part D, precautional safety measures. Place signs prohibiting smoking conspicuously about the area. Do not allow welding, matches, lighters, or on open flames, any kind of light, other approved explosion-proof flashlights, lanterns within 100 feet of the transfer or operational coal-burning locomotives operating the rear of the transferring above should be equipped with the smokestacks, firebox screens. The loading and unloading equipment must be grounded with the bonded position of one CO2 foam firing extinguisher on the ground and other loading rack. Party procedural loading of the tanker car, preparation for the loading, sample the gauging product of the transfer to take the sample of the product with the transfer to the tanker car, inspect the visually to make sure that the product has no unusual appearance, identify the quantity and the question of having the test performed to make sure that the product meets specification before starting the transfer operation. Gauge the contents of the supply tank of the recorded data obtained the water of the cut from the supply tank, measuring the water indication pace. Water layer in the tank approaches the level of the tank outlet, the drain water before transferring the product. Inspect the pump and the hose, loading the racks and pipelines and manifolds to see whether they are clean and free of any of the contamination products in any good operation condition. Equipment preparation. When possible, the equipment exclusively they handle one product. If necessary to be used with the same equipment for the handling serve of the product, drain the equipment throughout the proceeding of the product before introducing the new product into the line. See the track of the rails properly bound and grounded. Inspect the cable connection to make sure that they secure to the bare metal to metal, the contact the position car, that there will be no unnecessary strain on the hose connection. The loading of the rack may be used to position the car and so that its dome is under the opposite of the filling point. Set the brakes and block wheels of the tank car to prevent the movement to ensure the safety connections during the loading operation. Set the block and if provided. Set the lock derails if provided. Place the warning and sign and fire extinguishers required. Attach groundwater in the shell with the tank of the car to stake and the saturated ground around the stake with the water to make sure that the grounding is effective. If a loading rack of the tanker car manifold is to be used, mount it to the tanker car and shell in the loading rack. Tanker preparation. Move the dome cone to determine whether the tanker car is suitable for receiving the product. Make sure that the product last carried for the tank is the same as the product so that it will be transferred to the tank. If the product defers to the tank, must be cleaned before it is released from filing. Inspection of the interior of the tank of the cleanliness. If there is residue at the bottom of the tank must be rejected and cleaned before it can be filled. Look for any of the foreign objects as the tools and bolts and old tanker car seal and in the fallen and taken objects should be removed. Authorized for the persons. All some objects do not contaminate the product. Damage valve. Inspect the interior exterior of the tank. tank. Must make sure that there are no holes, cracks, or loose plates. Make sure that there are no leaks in the loose plates, and make sure that there are no leaks in the tank. See that the tank is properly mounted on the outer frame, that the tank is safe and roadworthy. Inspection of the dome recovery and safety valve says the operation operable in good condition. Make sure the vent holes in the dome cover any open and free dirt so either the outlet chamber has not been damaged. Tank valve inspection. Make sure the outlet valve will close to see the properly placed a suitable container underneath the both outlet chamber to the drainage. Open and close outlet valve several times by opening the valve rod handle, the hand wheel located inside the dome. If the volume does not close properly, the valve gasket should be replaced with the valve repaired in an emergency. A tanker car may be loaded without repairing outload valve. However, the condition must be reported by the person receiving the tank unloaded throughout the dome. In this case, the car should be scheduled for the repair as soon as possible. When operating the valve, the operating properly close the volume. The drainage tube shall be remained underneath outlet, and the transfer operation is complete. When considered necessary, the tank must be flushed with a small amount of the product to be loaded and to remove last trace of the previous product as well as the rust and scale from the outlet pump to the suck of the tank or car. Before removing the bottom of the outlet cap, make sure that the outlet valve is properly closed with the tank or wrench. Remove the bottom outlet cap. Allow any of the product trapped in the outer chamber to drain into the drainage tub. If there's residual product in the tank, opening the outlet valve will allow the product to drain into the tub. Close the outlet valve. Do not place the outlet cap on until the car is completely loaded. Dispose any of the product collected in the drainage tub. Place the tub in the position to catch the leakage. Loading product. The tank of the car should be loaded through the bottom of the outlet figure 9-1 whenever the possibility to prevent vapor loss, reduction, generation, static electricity, protect the fuel against the contamination from the outside source. The bottom load of the tanker car procedure valve is located at the ground pumping assembly at least 50 feet away from the tanker car. Make sure the supply container is properly grounded and vented. Connect the hose line. Take the care of the renovating the hose line connections and lying at the ground and on from becoming otherwise contaminated. With the station of the man of the windward side of the dome signal with a full mark reach before starting the pump. Open the appropriate valves to avoid pumping against the closed system. Starting the pump, observe the safety precautions when the transfer of operation is halted with any reason. Disconnect the pump discharge when the level of the product in the tanker car is near the full mark of the benchmark. Signal pump to operator to reduce the pump. See if the bees start. Alert to stop the pump when use the loading of the racking other system provided with the control valve, reducing the flow of the product in the tank and partially closing the valve if the tank does not have a full marked. Load the tank until the product reaches the top of the shell. When the product reaches the full mark on the top of the shell, dome pump, close all of the valves, disconnect the pump discharge hose. Figure 9-1 shows loading at the bottom, the discharge tube at the bottom outlet with the grounded wire, iron stakes, the pump suction hose, and the 350-gallon pump the same, with the drainage tub. Top loading is done in emergency situations when bottom loading is not possible accomplished by the inserting end of the loading the hose in the drop tube of the dome tank that is almost at the touch at the bottom of the tank of figure 9-2. If those in the drop tube is not ascended far enough, the tank of the product splashes bad, causes undue loss of the product through the vaporization, creates a potential fire hazard. Make sure that there is no unnecessary strain on the hose which could cause the hose to move and come out of the tank during the transfer. Before starting the pump, open the appropriate valves to avoid pumping against the closed system. When all the connections are secured with the necessary valve, the hose open and stare the pump. When product starts to flow into the tank, observe the bottom outlet to see that there is no leakage. Leakage is apparent at the top of the bottom. Attempt to seat the bottom of the outlet valve during the valve with the rod handle in clockwise direction. If the leak cannot be stopped, discontinue loading operation. Recover the product from the tank and clear our area from the spilled product and follow the safety precautions as given. Bottom loading available. All right, loading from the bottom, loading from the dome, and into the bottom outlet drainage tub, the ground wires, the iron stakes moist and ground, the pump suction hose, the ground wire, and for the 350 pump assembly. Alright, your follow-up procedure. After loading the car, follow up the procedure. Perform all products with standing for 15 minutes, suspended with the water and sediment and can settle. Gauge samples of contents with the tank. The temperature product with the correct volume of 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Record the data. Resample with the reference until the tank has been delivered to the tanks. Can only contains any water, sediment, and drain in the tank of the and again the long loaded product until the tank is full. After the daily closing the gauge out of the tank, compare the total storage tank, issue the total quantities loaded. The tank car's report except for the loss of the property authority. When the tank car is full, the product replacement bottom outlet cap at the close of the lock of the dome cover. Place the identification seal on the dome cover. It must be approved, and when one which cannot be removed from which could be without being destroyed. The receiver is issued with the car and be tampered. And if the seal is in place, record the seal and the marking. All shipping papers remove the drainage tub under the bottom of the outlet. Discard any of the product that is in the tub. If it is dangerous, empty empty placards. Remove the place in them with flammable same placards being the two signs. They only to be reversed and disconnect ground wire from the tanker car. Remove the derails if provided. Remove the tanker car connected signs. Release the brakes and remove the car from the transfer area. Part F, procedure for unloading tanker cars, equipment preparation. Inspection unloading equipment such as pump hoses, unloading rafts, pipelines, manifolds to see whether they are clean and free of any of the contamination product, the good operation conditions. Whenever possible, use the equipment exclusive to handling one product that is necessary to use the same equipment to handling service several products, draining the equipment thoroughly with the proceeding before they introduce the new product into the line. If the product in the tanker are to be transported in cans, drums, the tanks, and trucks, semi-trailers, inspected with the containers or the vehicles may be sure that they are clean and good condition. If the product in the tanker cars to be transferred to the storage tank, the may make sure the tanks are clean, suitable for receiving the assigned product. But if the tanks are not clean, they may be free of the vapors and clean before receiving product. Alright. Shut my door. Sample gauging receiving. When it's receiving the tank, it already contains the product of the gauge sample, the contents of the tank, of the temperature for the product, the correct volume, and the 60 degrees Fahrenheit record. Make sure that there is enough space out of the tank of the receiver of the product. Inspect the side, sample the visuals to make sure that the product in the receiving tank is the same product as the tank car. If there's any doubt as to the identity and quality of the product, have it tested before correcting the grade and quality. Before mixing the new product, the drain water with the tank before the starting the transfer of the gauge tank again with recorded data. Make sure that receiving the container of the tank car properly grounded and vented. Tanker car inspection. Compare the car number, the seal number with the number of the shipping paper to see that the car is unloaded in the right destination. Examine the seals, locks carefully with the evidence of tampering. If the cars arrive, if the broken seals are locked, notify the proper authority if absolutely necessary for the cars to be released because of the storage of the tanks. Transfer the contents with separate of the containers. Do not use the product for any other purpose unless the samples that have been approved. The storage of the product should be made a matter of record prior to the surprise seal loose to the removal of the dome cover. In hot weather, extreme high pressure may be developed in the tanker cars. If the safety valve is not functioning when time permits, relief pressure permit the car to cooling overnight. If the pressure is released by venting large quantities of the product that is low, the vaporization creating potential fire hazard. Inspection tanker car that leaks from the shells and bottoms. If the car shows the evidence leaking schedule, the car is immediately unloaded. Place the containers in the position to catch the leaking product. Sampling and gauging tanker car. The gauge and sample the contents of the tanker car. Examine the sample, the appearance of the color, the total. Take the temperature of the product. Correct the volume to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Record the data. Remove the water present with the tank of the drain water slowly from the bottom of the outlet. If the water is removed from the gauge, the contents again corrected with the 60 degrees Fahrenheit. With the recorded data, examine the sample of the product visually to make sure the product is properly proper grade and fuel having cloudy or just decided to leave off color appearance should be suspected of having some contamination. Any questionable product should be thoroughly tested to make sure that it meets specifications before it is unloaded. Tanker car valve inspection. If the car is to be unloaded through the bottom outlet, make sure that the outlet chamber is in good condition through the outlet valve. The operating properly with the valve may become inoperable in cold weather because the water in the tank is likely to settle and freeze around the outlet valve. To freeze frozen valves, apply steam jet or hot water or hot cloths to the outlet chamber when they authorized at a hot air duct heater and slave kit may be used to train personnel to thaw the outlet if the time that permits with the valve during the warm part of the day. Unloading a tanker car. To unload a tanker car through the bottom of the outlet, locate the bottom at least 50 feet of the tank of the car to the ground. Make sure that the outlet valve is seated. Place a suitable drainage tub underneath the bottom of the outlet tub. This should remain under the outlet until the transfer operation is completed. Loosen the bottom outlet cap at the two turns of the permit of the product of the drain for the outlet chamber. The drain out around the threads in the tub. If flow from the outlet does not slow down within approximately 15 minutes, attempt to seat the valve properly. If the valve cannot be seated, unload the tanker car through the dome, connect the pump section into the tanker car outlet, connect the pump discharge into the inlet receiving container, just put the drainage collected with the drainage on. Again, Place the tub into position to catch the further leakage. Place the dome cover of the main hole in which they can enter the tank if the product is unloaded. Place a block of wood under the edge of the hinged dome to cover and ensure the ample venting. When all the connections are secure, open the bottom valve. Open the necessary valve of the line to permit the free flow of the product. Start the pump. As the product starts to flow through the line, observe all the connections and make sure that there are no leaks. If the leaks are apparent, to stop the pump, make sure the repairs are adjusted meant to stop the leaks before continuing. When all the products have been unloaded from the tank, wait until the pump drains the suction line, then shut down the pump. Close the inlet valve of the receiving container immediately after shutting down the pump so that the product will not drain back into the line. Dome unloading. To unload a tanker car from the dome, locate the pump at least 50 feet of the tanker car ground with the pump placed in drainage with the pump under the pump bottom outlet to catch the drainage. Insert the end of the unloaded hose through the tank of the dome and is almost touching the bottom of the tank. Keep the hose below the surface of the product until the tank is completely loaded. Connect the pump to discharge and let receiving the container. Place the dome cover over the manhole. The cover rests against the hose. Allow the ample space for venting. Follow the pumping procedure described when the tank is carried or is almost empty. Manipulate the hose so that the product is drawn from the car. If possible, remove the bottom outlet cap. Drain the product from the outlet chamber and into the tub. Follow-up procedure. Make sure the tanker car is completely empty. Gauge the sample that connects the receiving tank at the correct valve with 60 degrees Fahrenheit. The record of the data. Compare the quantity of the product delivered. Receive the tank quantity. Tank up with the tank car. Report excessive loss to the proper authority. While ample time to suspend water and sediment settle to receive the tank of the drain water. Gauge the contents again. Record the data. Clean the bottom of the outlet valve. Remove the unloading hose of the tanker car. If the wooden block is used to hold the dome of the car open, be sure the block does not fall into the tanker car. Disconnect the tanker car adapter. Replace the outlet cap. Tighten the cap with the tanker car wrench. Close the lock on the dome cover. Remove the drainage tub and discard any of the product in the tub. If the car has flammable placards, remove them. Replace the dangerous empty placards. Disconnect the grounding wire from the tanker car. Remove the derails if provided, but remove the tanker car connected. Replace the brakes. Remove the car from the transfer area and notify all the proper authority that the unloaded tanker car is ready for removal and is being returned to empty freeload. Report any defective car from the proper authority. Part G, cleaning tank rail cars. The two most common reasons for the cleaning of tanker cars are contamination, change of the product prior to being cleaning operation. Appropriate safety measures must be taken. They include the bonding grounding of the car, placement of safety signs, fire extinguisher, clean uncoated tanks. The steaming for 1 hour, the sludge remains contaminated. Continue steaming until cleaning the tank cars will multiply. Compartments cleaning with one compartment at a time. All tanks to cool and check with the explosive meter. Remove the residual sludge. Steam engine with clean solvent. Allow the tanks to cool. Dry with lint-free rags. Never clean the coated tank with steam. Use an air ejector and air adductor to vapor the free with the jack. And check the explosive meter to remove the sludge. Scrub the tank with solvent. Rinse the warm water with dry lint-free rags. And that was Direct Tank Vehicles QM Subcourse QM 5094 Edition A, Army Institute of Professional Development Direct Tank Cars Army Correspondence Course Program.